Pennywise, the dancing clown, has to be one of the most interesting characters that I've seen in fiction. I do feel like they should make more movies about this guy, as they don't really do him justice all that much in the 2019 movie. Now, this isn't really the type of video that I normally would make, but when I was younger, for whatever reason, I became really obsessed with horror media. And I feel like many people as a child would either be really obsessed with horror, or they would just hate it. And I was one of those kids that was really obsessed with horror. So I was about 8 years old, I think, when the rebooted It 2017 released. And at the time I would see a lot of kids who were slightly older than me talk about this movie all the time. And at the time I didn't really have an interest in horror, but I had a basic idea of what it was. So then I went to my mum and I asked them if they had seen this film. And they just said that they saw it as a child and it wasn't all that scary. That's mainly because they were talking about the 1990s It miniseries starring Tim Curry. So the thing is, because I'm only 8 years old or so, my parents would have never let me watch an R-rated movie like It. So out of curiosity, I go onto YouTube and I put it in the search bar. And the very first thing that comes up is the scene where a kid called Georgie gets his arm bitten off by Pennywise and then gets dragged down the sewer. That scene completely traumatised 8-year-old me. Well, I feel like traumatised is a bit of an over-exaggeration, but it completely shook me at the time. So, why does this make Pennywise the goat of horror? Because you could argue that this entire thing is biased, because It 2017 was probably the thing that actually got me interested in horror. But the thing is, after I watched It, I started watching other horror movies, such as Annabelle or The Conjuring. But those movies didn't really have the same kick to it. I didn't really get the same feeling I got when I watched It. I didn't really feel like... It didn't give me the same sense of fear that I got when I watched It. And I feel like this is mainly because of the way Pennywise looks that makes him so scary. I remember watching the interview from Conor O'Brien where he tells Bill Skarsgård, the guy who plays Pennywise, to recreate the smile he does when he films the movie. And then after I watched that interview, I started practicing it myself again and again and trying to perfect it to see if I could do it. I think I can still do that smile now. I don't think it looked anything remotely to how Bill Skarsgård does it. And I think the problem is that Bill Skarsgård has a lazy eye, which is like the cherry on top to why it looks so good when he does it. So, in conclusion, Pennywise the Dancing Clown is the undisputed GOAT of horror media, in my opinion at least. Because most people will say Freddy Krueger or Jason or even Freddy Fazbear, but the truth is, they aren't really all that scary. Well, we aren't going to talk about It Chapter 2, but I feel like horror movies, especially in the modern era, are not scary at all. It's almost like a parody of the genre itself. The only good horror movie that I've seen recently has to be Talk to Me, and there might also be a couple other ones that I forgot to mention. And I'm pretty sure Talk to Me didn't even have a high budget, but it was still really good. As you can see, I'm using a different mic, which I'm probably gonna stop using if it doesn't sound all that great. I hope I've enlightened you to understand that Pennywise is clearly just overhated and he's actually one of the greats. I'd appreciate it if you can drop a comment, maybe discussing about your own opinion on horror media. Also, I'm almost at 200 subscribers, so I would also appreciate it if you can drop a subscribe. I'd also appreciate it if you can subscribe. And that's about it really. Goodbye.